Mr. Sharma, that there was corruption. There was corruption.
Shall we give it to the courts who are still trying?
And let me tell you what the court said in that case. The court said that
what happened... Have they given the final verdict?
Well, the court said while...
Don't prejudge.
The court said while cancelling the 122 licenses, I will never prejudge nor judge. Mr. Sharma, it said that what happened was, quote, wholly arbitrary, capricious and contrary to public interest apart from being violative of the doctrine of equality.
Then where there's need of a trial then?
Well, this is
after that there should not be any trial.
That was what
if at the highest level this is said, if one of you is accused of something, rightly or wrongly, and if the final verdict is announced, you have, why should you go through the appellate processes which are there under the Constitution?
Well, that was
a right of any citizen. Second thing is, I'm conceding as a government, I'll be more than happy as a citizen of the Republic of India that those who have calculated this fancy figure, we should appoint them as a nation, as an authority to auction, recover that. Original, without any interest. Please recover that 1,76,000.
I see here today that...
Persuade people to go for the auction. That's not the job of a government.
Mr. Sharma is angry with the opposition?
I'm not angry with anyone. I'm just stating the truth.
Mr. Sharma is angry with the...
He's only angry with himself.
Mr. Sharma is angry
for his government, for his government not implementing his very good suggestion.
Mr. Sharma is angry.
This 1,76,000.
Mr. Sharma is angry.
Recover. If that is the correct figure, we give you the authority.
Mr. Sharma is angry with the media and Mr. Sharma is angry with the judiciary. A second speaker here today, and I think that this debate really today has opened up quicker than I would have thought. Our second speaker today will be Mr. Sitaram Yechuri of the CPIM, Politburo member of the CPIM.
Well, I must say that you began this debate by posing the question very provocatively, whether the UPA and the Congress are on the back foot on the issue of corruption. Mr. Anand Sharma has admitted that he is a good front foot batsman and therefore he is bad on the back foot, and that he is shown by his opening comments that he is rather bad on the back foot. So we know where to get you out now, and that is thanks for that confession. But if you're discussing corruption, I would say that to put the issue in a larger perspective and to have a deeper discussion, I think we have to accept the reality that corruption has two aspects to it. One is the question of morality. One is being dishonest, patently wrong, and that is something all of us will have to work to try and root it out from society. I mean, that is something which my generation went through. We used to go through things called the non-detailed text in our English course. I don't know if your generation is today, familiar with that. We used to have short stories in that. And one of the short stories in the age-old times, a king asked, wanting to test the morality of his people, he asked everybody to bring a lota of milk and to put it in a huge canister. And the end of the day, he suddenly found, because everybody thought that others will put milk, so let me take a lota of water. So when end of the day, he opened the big canister and found that it was full of water and not a drop of milk. So these have come down since ages. I mean, there are problems of morality, and that is something all of us as a society will have to get rid of, and their political parties have to take the lead. That is one aspect. There's another issue of corruption which has been eating our heads for the last decade or more, in fact. That is systemic corruption. Corruption that occurs because of the systemic faults that you have. And much of these systemic faults are deliberately brought into the system so that you create avenues for corruption. You had corruption of the nature of the license Raj regime, but what you have here are international tenders, PPP projects, who is awarded them, how they are awarded, how these decisions are taken. All of them open up new avenues, and that is exactly the category in which you will find the coal allocation scam, you will find the spectrum scam, you will find all the other scams that have come in. So therefore, unless you rectify the system and focus your attention also on the reforms that you are following, I don't think this sort of corruption can really be tackled. Right. And on that score, the final point I want to make, on that score, I think there's very little to choose between the BJP and the Congress. The reason I'm saying the 6 years that the NDA government was there was also the period when you had a lot of this. In fact, the telecom scam actually goes back to that period.
Yeah.
So you have a sort of, when we see in the parliament, when most of the discussions are not allowed, I had the occasion to say that there's sort of a match fixing going on between the two of them. And poor Srishant has been caught. I mean, if he's guilty, he should be caught. That's okay. But the actual political match fixing is going on here when you don't want the systemic faults to come out. Let's plug those systemic faults. That is the root cause of the present day corruption, and that is important.
I wonder whether when you were very actively supporting Mr. Anand Sharma, when he was foreign minister, in fact, you were part of the government. I wonder whether that was... I wonder whether the
scam occurred with them supporting
I am allowed to complete. I am allowed to complete.
This audience is young.
I am allowed to complete. I wonder whether when you were supporting them, that was spot fixing.
Mr. I'll just tell you. I'll just tell you, but at the outset, I mean, with your permission, I'm actually honored that I had the occasion to actually make Arnab say, please let me complete. And for a change, I mean, that's a wonderful achievement. But let me tell you, the 4 years that we extended support to the UPA 1 government, the time when we were important players in forming the UPA itself post-election in 2004, in those 4 years, not a single scam.
Fact check. I have a fact check, and so does. Okay, we have a fact check.
I can give you n number of fact checks on this. All these scams that we saw in UPA 2 surfacing have actually occurred during UPA 1 when you were, let me complete my fact check, when you were supporting this government until 2008. So the coal block, major portion of the allocations, 2006, 7, 8, 9. Telecom, the licenses were allotted while you were supporting the government in 2008. In Antrix, it was while you were supporting the government that spectrum was given to Devas. I can list out a whole list of scams here.
No.
Okay, Mr. Piyush Goyal, you have your turn. Yes.
I have a printed list here of all the scams that you have referred to. All of them originate when your NDA government was there.
Kindly
when your NDA government, I'll tell you. Please listen.
Let him complete. You must let him complete.
No, hang on. Absolutely. The telecom scam, when it started with a thing called the regime change, when from the license fee you shifted to sharing of the revenue. That was done under the NDA government.
But which was no scam.
That is from then. From then on, the question of auctioning of licenses began. Otherwise, it was a license fee that people had to pay. You changed that. That is why when the 2G spectrum, JPC was to investigate, when you said we'll go back to 1998, from there onwards, that was scuttled, and therefore you had a report which is not a report of the JPC. Number two, coal block allocations. The coal block allocations of this nature started under the NDA regime.
I'm sorry, again, fact check.
No.
That started in 93.
Let me complete. But in the first 4 years of UPA 1, we had put them under control. And they lost that control the moment they abandoned the left support. They lost that.
There was a person called Mr. Fact check. I have a fact check.
Let's hear the date the licenses were issued.
I have a fact check.
Let's hear the date the coal blocks which are under CBI investigation.
Can I also
6,
be allowed?
7, 8, how many coal blocks? Shall I tell you?
Can I be allowed? Come on, gentlemen. Come on, gentlemen. Can I be allowed the luxurious indulgence of a fact check?
Absolutely.
In 2005. By the way, I'm sorry for taking your time. Mr. Anand Sharma, it's your turn to respond. There's a person called Sitaram Yechuri.
Well, I still happen to be here.
I have no doubt. But it's the same Sitaram Yechuri who says all this also said absolutely nothing about Natwar Singh when he was forced to resign under allegations, serious allegations about in the Volcker report. Not once, Mr. Sitaram Yechuri, did you say. In fact, you said, I have nothing to say. It's for the Congress party to decide. Because Natwar Singh was a Congress office bearer at the time of this deal. Now, you know what I'm talking about, Mr. Sitaram Yechuri. The Volcker report, December 2005, your party was refused to demand Natwar Singh's resignation. The general view was that because you sort of ideologically agreed with him, you went soft.
The point is that the Volcker report came out in the time of towards the last quarter of 2005.
Yeah.
When I was a member of the Indian delegation to the United Nations General Assembly. And that was the 60th anniversary of the United Nations. And when we were there, that is when the Volcker report came public. And I'm on record for saying it from New York, from the United Nations headquarters, that if the veracity of this report is correct, then Mr. Natwar Singh, who did this?
I'm only...
No, hang on.
I'm only saying this that because you demand...
Who did this as an office bearer of the Congress party?
Okay.
This pertains to the period when he was an office bearer. He became a minister subsequently.
No, I'm just saying...
But today, when it was made public, that should be, if investigated, he should not continue.
Mr. Yechuri, I'm only saying that there's a Sitaram Yechuri who demands Pawan Kumar Bansal's resignation. There's a Sitaram Yechuri who demands Ashwini Kumar's resignation.
Absolutely.
There's a Sitaram Yechuri who demands Kalmadi's resignation.
Everybody is
corrupt. But there is also a Sitaram Yechuri.
Everybody corrupt.
Also a Sitaram Yechuri who did not demand Natwar Singh's resignation.
No, I demanded Yedurappa's resignation.
Well, I'm just making a point as a fact. Question is coming to you from Anand Sharma next.
I did on the floor of the House. Please check the Parliament records.
You see, irrespective of what Arnab has said and what Sita said in 2005 November, whatever the subsequent events, the fact of the matter is that I moved over to the South Bloc and stepped in and given the responsibility as the foreign minister. So I'm not commenting on the rest what happened.
Yeah, but you can comment on the other things.
No, but what I do want to say to Sita, that A are the issues of scams, which in his interjection, Mr. Piyush Goyal has also referred to, and I'll wait for the learned audience, our young people, our sons and daughters, to ask us this question so that I can respond adequately, not to a partisan, provocative observation. Secondly, when it comes to the neoliberalism, there's one theory. When economies have developed, if you go by what happened in the post-industrial revolution, the first, the second came in the United States with the mass assembly lines being put in place. And later on, when electricity was inducted for industrial production as well as assimilation of technologies, there have been issues which we are deliberating today, allegations, frauds, company frauds, and the systems were put in place. There was a time in the capitalist world, as it was evolving, when the business people were referred to even as robber barons, when there were kind of profits which were made which were unacceptable to the people, and the checks were put in place. In India, the checks have been put in place much faster when it comes to our emergence on the global scene. What Sita said about the observation that this is happening because of the ideological approach of neoliberal approach, you live in a world which is globalized, which is interconnected, which is interdependent. My problem with Sita is that they have ideological blinkers. They want to remain frozen and insulated from the rest of the world. We want to connect to the world and to be a leader in the 21st century.
Anand. That's not a question.
No, that is what your approach is.
Point, I'll answer that. My point is, it's not an ideological issue I'm talking about.
Of course.
I'm talking of a systemic issue. If you remember the word I used, that corruption has two aspects. One is the question of morality. The other is the question of a systemic corruption. Now the point is, you have given instances of post-industrial revolution, etc., etc. Yes, those can be added upon, multiplied. They're numerous. But systems have learned from that and put in regulatory mechanisms. When you have learned from them, so to say, I think wrongly learned, that's my opinion, that we may differ on that, on ideological issues, as you say. But the question is, if you learned reforms from them, why didn't you learn also this systemic regulatory institutions along with that? And that is the point. By not doing that, you have promoted and you are encouraging even today the growth of what is called crony capitalism, which can lead only to corruption because things happen because of sweetheart deals. Somebody knows you and therefore he gets a contract, and somebody gives you something, therefore he gets a contract, and that is the systemic thing.
You use the word, you use the word dishonest. Now, let's say, be very clear. Are you saying that Mr. Anand Sharma and the cabinet he represents was deliberately dishonest? Because what he's saying is...
I'm not saying
no, one second. His argument is that corruption happened because there were no systems.
Yeah,
and systems are being created. No. Are you saying they deliberately did not create systems in order to allow corruption and allow scams? If you're saying so, be specific, Mr. Yechury.
Yeah, I am as specific as it can be. They have borrowed the Western experience.
He has a fact check.
No.
I have a fact check now.
What is the fact check?
Let me tell you.
I have to rely.
No.
This is like the point of order in Parliament.
Exactly. Well, no, you have to quote the rule now, Anand. The rule number.
The first fact check is that when we were seeing certain sectors evolving, including telecom, electricity, and coal sector now, which are under discussion, did the government move? Yes. Did the government move the cabinet to take a decision? The answer is yes. Regulators were appointed. There is a telecom regulator in place. There is a central electricity regulatory commission in place. There is the government has introduced the bill to appoint a coal regulatory authority.
So it's not. We move on.
Regulators are very much there.
No,
so you cannot say that the government did not act.
Sir, let me tell you, the coal scam. No, we are moving on to the BJP now. I just want to say one thing. Forget
the regulators followed the reforms. That is the problem.
There was
only when
Mr. Sharma and Mr. Yechury. Forget the CAG. As far as the coal scam was concerned, the Supreme Court appointed panel. The parliamentary panel found irregularities. Your government was accused of abusing power and handing out natural resources to a few chosen, fortunate ones without following a transparent system. That's why it's called a scam. I'm quoting the Parliamentary Standing Committee report on coal. You can completely respond to me, but after the BJP's introductory comments.
No, but I'll have to.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you will, and I'll give you the time to. Piyush Goyal, on the subject of the debate today, that if corruption is the #1 issue, is the UPA on the back foot, Congress on the back foot, your 2 minutes starts now.
Very clearly, the Congress-led UPA is on the back foot on this issue. But first of all, let me compliment you, Arnab, for being one of the torch bearers of this campaign against corruption. And I must compliment your young audience, who's today quite awakened about this issue. Takes time out to come here, listen to your debates. Compliments to all of you.
Thank you.
And I believe we can all make a difference going forward.
Yes, we can.
There's light at the end of the tunnel. But broadly, taking forward from what Sitaram said, I bracket corruption into 3 buckets.
Yes.
It could be financial, it could be moral, and it could be political. And I think the UPA has breached the frontiers on all 3. Look at the financial corruption. It could be speed money, that's the speed and greed, or it could be the inefficiency. Look at why did all these scams take place, whether it was coal, whether it was Devas, the Tatra trucks you're forgetting, the more recent Augusta Westland, and we can go on and on and on. There was greed, and there was the desire of some people to speed up the process, and a combination of speed and greed led to the financial impropriety in the process. There was also inefficiency, which comes under financial corruption. The fact that projects are delayed for years on end. The own government admits that 7 lakh crores of projects are not being cleared because 2 consecutive environment ministers refused to clear projects. For what reasons, we don't know. A government and the Prime Minister is helpless, watching the country's economy deteriorate and cannot do anything. That's inefficiency, and you pay for that inefficiency. When power plants don't come up, steel plants don't come up, roads are not built, ports don't come up, airports have cost escalation, road bridges are expensive. We all pay for it. We'll pay tolls for the rest of our life in Mumbai for a ceiling which should have cost 400 crores, but under the UPA in Maharashtra cost 1600 crores. Then there's moral corruption, where you see them attacking institutions of integrity. And we've seen that for the last many years. If the court ordered against their earlier Prime Minister, they would attack the courts. If the CAG came out with a report, they would attack the CAG. Their effort has been to kill institutions of integrity.
Okay.
And in terms of political corruption, I think the excuse given, the compulsions of coalition politics, it just doesn't wash. Mr. Vajpayee ran a coalition of 22 partners, but he did not compromise. And when push came to shove, he was willing to sacrifice his government, go in for a re-election, rather than compromise on the nation's interests under the garb of compulsions of coalition politics.
Okay, introductory comments, responses from this side. Who'd like to go in with the first response? Okay, first counter to Piyush Goyal comes from Anand Sharma.